IT, forging IT security experts. Secure Ninja.
Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Webb with Secure Ninja TV, and I am here at BlackHat USA in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm speaking with Jeff Bardin. He is the principal at Treadstone. And Jeff, we spoke before.
Yes.
We did an interview about cyber intelligence. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, cyber warfare. So what are some of the new trends and updates with cyber warfare?
Well, it's a big topic to cover, but some of the things that I think are really interesting about is the concepts of counter-striking. A lot of people believe in cyber warfare that the only people who should be executing counter-strikes are largely the military or the government to do this. And I look at it from a few different aspects. There's, well, first of all, there's mitigative counter-striking and there's retributive counter-striking. So if someone is hacking your environment and you want to actually stop the hack, you can actually counter-strike them to mitigate it, to stop it. That can actually be to the point where you not only do you stop the hack, but you might follow it back a little bit further to actually hack them beyond the borders of your cyber environment, your virtual environment. Retributive counter-striking is a little bit more beyond that. You mitigate it as well, but you'll follow them back, if you can, to the source of the attack, and you'll inflict some harm on them at their source, something that they largely are not used to having done. For the most part, outside of nation states, hacktivists, cyber criminals don't build a defensive posture. What they largely do is just they're constantly attacking to extract information. So if you attack them, you can actually inflict harm and cause financial pain to them, which may have them think differently if in fact they were to look at hacking you again. They'll go someplace else.
Interesting.
Now it's a little bit different concept around it. Now there's issues of attribution. How do I prove where it comes from? And then there's issues of people that may, the idea of collateral damage in the physical world. A lot of cyber criminals or hacktivists will use someone else's machine, unbeknownst to them. And unknowingly, that person will be a dupe in this whole possible botnet army or zombie army within the botnet. And if you go and attack back, you might actually damage the other person's computer. So there's some issues around that, but there's also a lot of laws that haven't been created yet. If you want to align this somewhat to the physical world, if someone broke into your house, right, and it's at night, you wouldn't sit there and warn them twice to get out, right? I mean, you'd want to reach for a weapon or call the police or both and try and chase them out of the house to protect what's yours, your property, your loved ones, whatever. Now, if you chase them out of your house, and they run down outside and they cross over into your neighbor's yard and start going across neighbors' yards, and the police get there and they start following that particular attacker, they get into what's called exigent circumstances. They may damage the property of the neighbor in pursuit of the attacker. Now, if you look at that from the cyber perspective, you may damage a neighbor, a cyber neighbor, or someone else's machine in pursuit of that. Is that considered exigent circumstances in the virtual world? It still hasn't really been defined. And there are really no cyber cops out there to do that for you, as there is in the physical world. We're just not there yet. Another analogy I think to use is in the physical world we have a 12-mile barrier outside the U.S. our borders. Everyone has this barrier, whether it's so many nautical miles at sea or the air, and we will scramble jets or ships to go out and meet that and mitigate the threat, and not necessarily counter-strike it, but mitigate it and turn it around. Now, if they come inside our borders and continue to penetrate, then eventually they'll be removed, physically removed. So on the physical side, that's our methods. In the virtual realm, we don't have a military that will do that for you. So I'm more of an advocate at this point, and in the maturity life cycle of where we are in cyber warfare, that if you can build the capabilities within your organization or hire someone to give you that capability to counter-strike, then you'll be much better off than just sitting there in a defensive posture and taking the punches. So.
Interesting.
A little bit different approach.
Yeah, definitely.
But, go ahead.
Sorry, it's interesting how the law ties into that. I actually spoke with somebody earlier about security research and the law and how the two tie together, and it's constantly evolving, and a lot of people don't understand
Right.
what repercussions can come about.
And the law isn't mature enough yet. We're kind of in the early days of this country when it comes to cyber. When I mean, if you look back in 1776, and we had the militia, right, that met the redcoats at Lexington and Concord. It was militia, called up from the people around to actually defend their land. They didn't do very well in this case, and maybe that's a bad analogy, because I think some of the cyber mercenaries or militias or even hackers out there have greater capabilities than an organized army at this point. And I may be overstating that, but the maturity level is still in this militia stage where we don't have this well-defined yet. And this will eventually evolve. And I'm not necessarily advocating for people to go out and do this themselves if they don't have the skills, because they can probably get themselves in more trouble. But for the longest time, we stand in a boxing ring. Picture this more like you're in a cyber environment. And you're standing there in a boxing ring and you're asked to defend yourself, but never throw a punch. Just to bob and weave, right, and defend yourself. And what you think is that you've only got one adversary in front of you, when in fact, there's adversaries all around you throwing you punches at you the whole time. And your job is just to defend. So you think you're really going to stop that? Absolutely not. You're eventually going to go down.
Right.
Because you just can't defend against that unless you take an offensive posture.
Exactly. Can you give me any real-world examples of counter-strike in a situation like this?
I think most of those would be sensitive, but you could look at the release of Stuxnet, the release of Flame, as not necessarily mitigative or retributive, but that's more of a preemptive strike. That's something that there's been an awful lot, and we've talked about this before, cyber intelligence done on the Iranian nuclear facilities, on SCADA systems, on the Siemens devices that were in there in the nuclear facilities, to fully understand what they were, so when the software went in, it would actually be surgical in how it actually messed with the programmable logic, the PLCs, and modified the centrifuges to actually delay them 2 or 3 years. Flame would go in, and some of the capabilities there actually were more advanced from the standpoint of it could actually remove itself. And this gets into the concept of the virtual proliferation of small arms. If somebody's going to send a malware out to damage a computer facility of some type, you don't want to leave tracks so they can actually reverse engineer your technology and use it back against you. And build more things into it, more payloads into it. Flame had the capability to remove itself. So you can see the escalation in the small arms. You could look at those as, again, a preemptive strikes, counter-strikes, or preemptive strikes. There's, from more of a militia perspective, you could look at the gentleman named the Jester, who's been out there taking down cyber jihadist sites. Matter of fact, today, right here at DEF CON, his Twitter account has been suspended, largely because his email account was removed from Hotmail. People have been trying to dox him meaning identify who he is, or take him offline. So while this person is going out there trying to do some good with respect to knocking down jihadist sites in a retributive counterstrike, there's people trying to identify who he is and to undermine him by using cyber intelligence, counterintelligence means, and knowing that we can take him off of Twitter by invalidating his email. And so that's actually going on right now as we speak.
Right.
It's interesting things that go on in the environment that whether it's an individual, militia, or mercenary, or even large-scale nation states that are executing different types of strikes.
Absolutely. Do you think the Jester is here at BlackHat?
It's possible. It's possible. I don't think at this time he is here, but you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. It might pop up. So.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It was great to speak with you again.
Thanks, Alicia.
And hopefully more great topics will come up and we can speak with you some more.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Secure Ninja shorts are brought to you by SecureNinja.com, a world leader in information security and IT training and certification. Our master instructors will help build you into a highly skilled and marketable security professional. SecureNinja.com, forging IT security experts.